Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Camille Aiko, excuse me, and I hope that you are living the life that you love spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. So again, I got my two cameras going on again today, so if you see me looking strange, that's why. I'm still trying to figure this thing out, how to do two and still look natural in both of the cameras. So let me ask you all, do you know how to exercise your mind? Do you know how to strengthen your mind when those negative thoughts come? Do you know the process to effectively start to transform your thoughts, your thought patterns, so that you can truly live your best life? Let me know. Do you know how to do that? Drop a I don't know, a heart. Drop a heart below if you know how to exercise your mind. And as you guys are coming in too, go ahead and put a 1 if you are catching this live, and if you are watching this on replay, drop a 2 below for me, just so I can know who's on here with me when people are typically hopping on. I'm gonna grab some water. So let me know. You guys know how to exercise your minds? Drop those hearts below. Drop a 1 if you're gonna stay on here with me, and drop a 2 if you're catching this on replay. So if you have not been following along, we are doing a look. I forgot the book yesterday, but I have it today. So we're doing a book discussion on this book called Are All Your Pieces in Place by Glenda Feilen. And it's a mortal's guide to success, joy, and happiness. And so as we talked about, hey Savetta, hey Sandy. So as we talked about on yesterday, we're really covering, I got my long notepad here, but trust me, we won't be as long as it seems, okay? But in this book, we're really discussing every part of who we are, because we know that we're not just physical beings, even though that's mainly what we see, right? But we are so much more than that, and we have to really understand who we are so that we can nourish each part of who we are, and then exercise those parts of who we are so that we can strengthen ourselves. Okay, so we do have the physical self, right? And then we also have the mental self, we have the emotional self, we have the vibrational self, and we have the spiritual self. And so yesterday we introduced the mental self, and so today we're really going to be talking about how do you exercise your mental self. Okay, and so real quick before we even hop into that, let me just talk about which each self is again. So every time we hop on here, I want to do a review just in case there are some new people on here joining, and I want to catch you guys up to speed. Okay, so your physical self is obviously your physical, right? It's what you can see, it's what you can touch, it's there. Okay, you look in the mirror, that's your physical. Now your mental self is constantly making choices about your life. Your mental self is constantly making the choices about your life. Your emotional self is constantly having feelings about those choices that you have made concerning your life. Your vibrational self is electrically irradiating your feelings outward, right? So it's like you're thinking something, you begin to feel an emotion about it, and then you're radiating that out to everybody else who is around you. And then fifth, your spiritual self. Okay, so this supplies the inspiration, the intuition, the enlightenment that we get, and each part is influential to every other part of us, which is why we have to nourish each one, and we have to exercise each one. Just like it's important for us to eat the right foods for us physically, we have to do the same thing for each and every part. Okay, so yesterday we just kind of talked about the mental, and we really discussed a lot of things that are going on in the world on today, and just saying, if you don't really understand what I'm saying and how I'm breaking this down, or even how Glenda, because she's the author of this book, right, it's kind of like, there's the pastor who committed suicide, right? And so we know that the pastor is in his word. We know that there is some spiritual aspect that he was catering to, but was he catering to that mental? And was he catering to his emotional side? And something has to tell us, obviously not, because if he was, then he wouldn't have committed suicide, right? There's too many people who are confused, down, depressed, complacent, stagnant in their life, that lets us know that they're not living their best life, and there are some areas of their life that they are not nourishing, right? And that could even be our physical. Maybe you are really overcome with sickness and illness. We are what we eat. So the choices that we have made, the thoughts that we have had up until this point, has gotten us to where we are in our life. So if you're not happy with where you are, if you're not satisfied with where you are, then you have to go back and look and say, okay, what have I done? What has been my thought process? What has been there leading and guiding me? And then not only that, but remembering that we have two parts to the mind, right? We have the subconscious mind, and we have the conscious mind. And your subconscious mind is what is doing the creative thought. Your subconscious mind is continuously working. It's the imagination. It's the thoughts that just keep going and never stops. While our conscious mind, you know, that's where we really make our decisions. Okay, so hopefully on my laptop we keep connection. I see that it was a little weak right there, so if it goes out, come to my personal page, Camille Aiko, all right, or I'll try and share it over there as well. So let's go ahead and hop into now, how do we actually strengthen, how do you strengthen your mind? And so I was even just thinking last night, there was a situation that happened, and I was just like, you know what, I'm tired. I am like tired of this type of thing happening. And I think a lot of times what happens when we're trying to strengthen ourselves mentally is that we don't take a break, right? You have to take a break. When you say to yourself, I am tired, take a break, rest. You need it. You need that time to be able to regenerate your thoughts, to be able to just reprogram. Instead of thinking negative, you need to think of the positive, right? And you need that time to recharge. And so many times we just like want to push and push and push, and we push ourselves to the limit. As we talked about on yesterday, you know, we just push ourselves till there is no end, and that is no good. Like literally, you know, we have to slow down to speed up sometimes. That we have to slow down, think about our thoughts, organize our thoughts, and then continue on with an action plan, right? Okay, so when we think about mentally, we know that the food to nourish our mind, our mental self, is our thoughts, right? So what then is the exercise that we need to do in order to strengthen our mind? Because a lot of us out here are living with some weak minds, okay? So we have to strengthen our minds. And so what needs to happen is that our conscious mind needs to reprogram our subconscious mind. So the exercise that needs to take place is that we are creating action, right? So create is the action word that needs to happen, and we need to create our thoughts with our conscious mind so that it will seep deep down into our subconscious mind and begin to create the life that we want. Okay, and so I'm going to explain this and give even more examples of this, because it's so important for us to understand how our mind works, and most of us don't understand how our mind works. So we've just kind of been going through life on autopilot. For example, you know, I was taking my niece home. Now I know where my sister lives. I know where they live very clearly, right? I've been going there for years. No problem, no issue. But one day I was taking my niece home, and because I was not consciously thinking about what I was doing, like I was driving, we were safe per se, right? But when it came down to the exit, I completely missed the exit. And I looked up and I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Like, what is happening right now? And that's what happens so many times in our lives, is that we are driving down the highway of life, and we're going on autopilot, and we look up and we're like, where am I? How did I get here? Like, what direction am I in? Because we were going and not using our conscious mind. Because had I been using my conscious mind to drive to my sister's house, had I not had a whole bunch of thoughts going on, I think I was in a phone conversation, right? Then I would not have missed the exit, because clearly now I have to go out of my way. I've gone way further than what I had to. Why? Because I was not consciously thinking. And that's what happens for us, is that we are not consciously thinking, and we end up going way off course, way off path, and it takes us much longer to achieve our goals and to get us to where we want to be. So are your pieces in place? Are you mentally thinking positive thoughts? Are you mentally giving yourself the food and the nourishment and the exercise that you need in order to be successful, right? In order to reach your goals. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk more about how to exercise the mind, okay? And if you guys are getting anything from this, drop some likes or loves or share for me, okay? Let me know that I'm not like talking in gibberish and that you guys understand what I'm saying. Okay, so and maybe this isn't for you right now in this time in your life, okay, but go ahead and share it. But you know, show me something, give me some interaction, give me some engagement going on here. Okay, so here the thing is that if we are going to exercise our minds to get to the place that we want to be in our life, it really starts. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Remember, drop those ones too if you're live, and drop a 2 if you're catching this on replay. But you know, we have to begin to visualize. All right, so if you're taking notes, if you're taking mental notes, if you're taking written notes, write down the word visualize. This is all about visualization. If we want to strengthen our minds, if we want to exercise our minds, then we have to start to visualize very clearly. It needs to be a very clear picture. It needs to be colorful. We need to put ourselves in it, okay? And we need to enter the picture. So let's say, for example, you want to go to the Bahamas to vacation, all right? So what you really need to begin to do is not just say, okay, I want to go to the Bahamas, I want to go to the Bahamas, right? Because a lot of people do that and then they end up dying and they have never went to the Bahamas. But what we have to do is begin to picture ourselves there. We have to feel how it feels to be there. We have to imagine our feet in the sand. We have to imagine hearing the waves go. We have to imagine the light breeze. We have to imagine the trickle of sweat that is going down the side of our face, because we are in the picture. We are visualizing. We are seeing that it's happening, right? When I wanted to go to Japan, it was when I was younger, right? But I began to visualize it, and it took some time. But you know what? Guess what happened? I went to Japan. The only one of my siblings who was able to go to Japan. Why? Because I was consistent in my thought process and put myself in the picture and said, this is going to happen for me. And I created that in my mind. I didn't know how. I wasn't worried about the how. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And guess what? It came about. And that's how we have to be in our lives, okay? So we can accomplish anything that we want, anything that we believe. We can achieve it, because whatever we can create with our minds, we can actually transmit that into our physical world, our physical realm. Okay, maybe this is going to take as long as I thought. I'm looking at my notes like, I'm only here. But you all stick with me, because this is good stuff, okay? And it's going to benefit you if you follow along with me, all right? So we have to stop allowing ourselves to not visualize the things that we want, right? We just kind of go through life and we're just like, whatever. If it happens, it happens. And it's like, no, that's what has gotten you to where you are right now. Like, you haven't really visualized what your life is supposed to be like. You haven't really visualized how it's supposed to work out for you. And so therefore, you've just kind of given or taken whatever life has given you, right? And so that's why most of us are like, well, why is this going on in my life? And why do I keep experiencing this? Even with my conversation earlier of what I was saying, like, I just got to a point to say, I'm tired. But I had to stop and think and say, okay, what has been my actions to get me here? Why have I experienced this so often, and how do I really want to be able to handle these situations, and what do I really want these type of the outcome to be. And I had to stop and meditate and just really begin to reflect on that, because even though I couldn't change the situation, like the situation was in the past, I could change my reaction to it, and that I knew that I could manage the way I was feeling better. And so I had to go back and just meditate and say, you know what, instead of this taking me, 10 days, a week, whatever, to get over this thing that I was feeling, I want to be able to get over it immediately. Now, it's going to take some time because it took me some hours instead of immediately, but I'm getting better, right? But some of us, just think about like marriages. My grandmother would get up in church, and she would testify that she could be mad for days and not talk to my grandfather, right? Thank goodness the Lord saved her, and she came out of that, right? But it took a mind transformation in order for that to happen. Like, we can hold on to things and we don't get out of it. Okay, and so that's why we need to retrain our minds on how we handle situations, because nobody wants to be mad for that long. That doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't make us feel good, right? So we have to learn that when we're in situations that we can't control, that we even reprogram our mindset on how to manage our emotions and our reactions, even though we cannot change the situation, and imagine what that feels like. Like, I had to imagine what it would feel like to just release the stress that I had created in my mind, right? And be able to say, I want to be able to, as soon as something happens, okay, I might feel the emotion, but I can manage it better, and I can talk about it, and I don't have to have this rage. You know how you can just have like that tingling feeling in your body, and you're just like, yeah, it was one of those moments, right? But we don't have to be that way. We can transform our minds, that we can think differently and handle things better. All right, so, and hey everybody, okay, so I wanted to go to America. You felt that way, Nana, wanted to go? Okay, so, all right, Sandy, you getting something from this? What's going on, Wilbur? All right, so 1 and 2. All right, okay, so let's go here. Where are we at? So when I was saying earlier, what's going on, Brian, is that a lot of us, we have weak minds, right? Because we haven't practiced this. We don't take the time to meditate, right? And in fact, most of us can't meditate because it's like we sit down to meditate and then we already have 10 million thoughts coming across our mind. And so it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do when I'm meditating? Nothing. You're supposed to be silent. You can say a mantra, or you can say some affirmations as you're doing it, but you're really supposed to just be there and just be in the moment and be silent. And most of us cannot do that. Like, you'll start thinking about, okay, well, I gotta go pick up the kids, or I can't believe they did this, and what am I gonna do about this situation, and this is going on at work, and this is what's happening with my parents, and this is what's going on here, and I've got to do this today, and I've got to go to the gym, and have I eaten breakfast yet? So you're sitting here and you're trying to clear your mind, because when you clear your mind, that's when your thoughts come in more focused, but you can't do that, right? So we have weak minds. We have absolutely weak minds, which is why we have to learn how to visualize and really clear out the clutter and just get focused in on what it is that we want in our lives, so that it can become such a clear picture that nothing or no one can get in the way of what it is that we desire. Okay, so Napoleon Hill said, whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. And so we conceive a goal with our feelings, and then we believe it by repeating the visualization. So this doesn't mean that we just visualize something one time and then it's going to happen. No. You have to practice this thing. You have to see it every day. You have to pull it out. You have to go over it. You got to look at it every day. You got to put yourself in the situation, because the fact of the matter is not everything is going to happen right away, but it will happen, and it can happen if you follow the process and just trust the process. Why? Because God gave us this power. Okay, God created, He spoke it, and it was, and we have the same power. He has given us the same power. Okay, all right, but now let me get back to what the book was saying. So if we can't really get this in our minds, okay, think about electricity. I have no idea really how electricity works, right? I know that I go and I flip a switch and guess what happens? The light comes on. Okay, and it's the same thing with this, is that even though you may not understand how it all works, you just have to trust the process and know that when you flip the switch, the light's going to come on, period. Okay, Wilbert, tell us how the electricity works. How does that really come through, you know, to everybody's house? How does that really work, right? I don't know. I don't really care as long as my light comes on, as long as I can see in the night, in the dark, right? Now, the way that we can actually speed this process up, all right, the speed achieving the physical creation depends on the intensity of your feelings added to the single-minded focus of your visualization. So if you want to intensify what it is that you want in your life, then you have to really intensify the feeling. Like, you have to believe that it can happen, and then you also have to be able to feel it happening for you, right? You have to feel it happening, and the more that you feel it, but it can't be too hard, okay, because you can't force it, but you just have to feel it. So it's all about finding those boundaries as well, because some of us, we go out and we do things and you're like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but then you force it, and because you forced it, you don't have the vibration, you don't have the emotion, you don't have everything else that you need to go with it yet, okay? And so we'll talk more about that. But psychologists actually say that the imagination is one of the strongest mind powers, the imagination. And so what are we doing when we're visualizing? We are imagining what can happen, what it is that we want to happen in our life, so that we can live the life that is that we want, the life that it is that we desire, okay? So here is the power behind the mind. There is actually some studies that went on, or some cases, should I say, where there was these men who were blindfolded. And so again, as you guys are on here, if you were getting value from this, hit the heart, the like, the something, okay? Just let me know that you're with me. Let me know that you're here. I need some engagement, okay? Don't make me feel like I'm just talking to myself. All right. But anyway, let's go back to this whole study, right? So, absolutely, Wilbert. All right. So, psychologists, the study, case study, right? That's where I'm at. Okay. So the case study, there's these men blindfolded and they were told that they were about to be killed. Like, they were told that, their necks was going to be slit, right? Their artery was going to be cut, all this. So anyway, they are blindfolded. It was actually some ice and some water that they used on these blindfolded men. But because the men actually believed that they were being killed and that their throat was being cut, even though it was ice and water that they were using for like the effect of the knife and the effect of the blood, these men actually died. Why? Because in their minds, they believed that they were dying, and so they died. Or even, let's just take, for example, like, what is it, the placebo pill, right? Where there was actually a case where the doctor went in and gave the patient who had cancer, gave them the fake pill. Like, it wasn't really medication. And to the other person, you know, they pretty much, who was not sick, was like, you know what, you're gonna die, and so on and so forth. And guess what? The person who had the cancer and got the fake pill actually lived, and the other person ended up dying. Why? Because it's a matter of the mind. We create stress. In fact, I saw a quote today by Darren Hardy, and it said that stress is an illusion, and stress only exists because we create it. But once we get into our minds that stress does not exist, neither will the problem, neither will the stress. Like, it will, of course, I paraphrased that, okay, and I really screwed it up. So hopefully that you all got my point, though, is that we create the stress. Stress is the illusion, and once our minds have that reality that stress is illusion, the problem will go away as well. The stress will go away because it's not really there. Like, we create it. We absolutely create it. Like, when I told y'all about my issue that I was experiencing, like, I was stressed, but there was no reason to be stressed. There was no reason. Like, I mean, I have a right to feel the way that I felt, but I didn't have a good reason to then stress myself, right? And then you get tense. Y'all ever gone and got a massage and they're like, oh, you're just so tense, or maybe you have knots in your backs and different things of that nature? That's because we have created this stress that we don't need to create in our lives. right? And so then it takes a toll on us physically. Like literally, we physically begin to feel the stress that we've created because we have not controlled our thoughts. We have allowed just anything to come into our minds. And so now that's what we're acting out, and our body is taking a toll. And now we're getting sick and our body is breaking down. And we're like, well, why are all of these things happening to me? Guess what, guys? It all goes back to the mind, the mental self. And this is why we're talking about we have to strengthen it through the process of visualization. Stop being an overthinker. Stop being overwhelmed by all of your negative thoughts, right? You can have a whole bunch of options of the outcome of a situation, and the overthinker will look at everything and then pick the worst option and go with that and plan their life out based on that option. And guess what happens? That's what their life becomes, that negative thing that they saw, because that's what they have programmed their minds to think is going to happen. So even though they want the best, they can't have the best because in their creative minds, their creative mind is making the worst thing happen. And so it's like, well, why is this going on? Check your thoughts. What have you been watching? What have you been checking out? Okay, so where am I at? Okay, way over. Let's hurry this up, okay? So instead of fighting or worrying your way out of problems, this is, again, this book here, Glenda Feilen, but she says, instead of fighting or worrying your way out of problems, picture yourself out of them, right? So this is what I had to do earlier. Like, I literally had to picture myself out of being upset. Like, I had to picture myself being calm, cool, collective, easy breezy, right? I'm not that crazy woman. I am not her, right? I had to see myself like, whew, just take a couple deep breaths. Like, I was imagining myself being like my grandfather, right? My grandfather actually had someone to steal his car. And this person would sit at the table with him and eat his food, right? And this person came to his house, stole his car. My grandfather was like, guess he needed it more than I did. What? What? Now, of course, I ended up getting the car back and all that, but it's the fact of the matter of how he handled the situation. Like, he just believed that everything was going to turn out okay. And guess what? It did. And he didn't have... I'm sorry, y'all. I just saw this big, ugly bug. So let's just say a quick prayer that it doesn't fly over here and hit me. But because y'all will see me act a fool. My mind will not be mentally prepared for that. But, you know, he just believed that everything was going to be okay. Like, crazy things have happened to my grandfather. You know, like, people have come and slapped my grandmama in church and shot up his car and, like, some stole his tractor. And he's just been cool. Like, follow peace. Like, what? Like, that takes some mental power, okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, it takes some mental power to be at a place where those types of things can happen to us, because, you know, we're thinking we spend a whole lot of money on that. And he's just like, it'll be all right. It'll be cool. It'll work out. Like, when do we get to that mental power where it's like, I'm not even going to stress this stuff because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. Now, you do need to manage the situations properly, right? But some of the stuff that we get upset and overwhelmed and we're trying to fight and worry about what's going on in our lives, like, we just need to picture ourselves out of it. We need to take a few deep breaths and we just need to be done. Okay? So, sorry, I was getting a phone call. All right, so let's see here. Let me read something out of the book to you guys. So let me go to page 24, and then I really got to speed up. I must be enjoying this myself. I must have needed this for myself on today. Okay, but some rules about visualization, okay? Do it with the same feeling you'd have if it was already accomplished. So when you are visualizing those goals that you want, it doesn't matter whether it's from buying a car, buying a house, you know, being a good parent, whatever the case is, being a good auntie, right? Managing stress well, managing arguments well. Do it like you've already accomplished it. Okay, and I'm not going to elucidate on all of these points because it's going to take me even longer to finish this live. So, see the end result as if it has already happened. See the end result as if it has already happened. So we're talking again, if you're just joining in, how to strengthen, how to exercise our mind. All right, make sure you're in the picture. Make sure you see yourself. Like, don't just look at a picture of the beach, but see yourself on the beach, right? Okay. Release yourself or others from any resentment or anger concerning your situation. Release it, okay? Release people, resentment, anger, anything, okay? Let it go. Let it go. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Okay. All right. So it works. So do not doubt. Doubt is like throwing cold water on your hot fire of creation, okay? I'm gonna say that again. It works, so do not doubt. Doubt is like throwing cold water on your hot fire of creation. Think big. Like, some of y'all think way too small. Y'all think absolutely way too small. Like, God has given us so much power and access to so many things. He said that he would give us exceeding abundantly above all we could ask or think. Y'all thought I saw a bug. It was just something I written on the paper. Anyway, but he has given us so much, and we think so limited. We think so small. It's like, you know, we just feel like the best that we're ever going to get is government assistance, and it's just not going to get any better than that. Like, stop, okay? Just stop. And then have fun, because remember, we are living the life that we love. We are creating the life that we love. And so have fun with it. Stop taking everything so seriously, okay? Because everything just, I mean, if you're that serious all the time, you can't be happy. I can only imagine what your face is like. You're tense, you're stressed, whatever. Okay? So then you become stressed about creating the life that you love while you're creating the life that you love, but you can't really create the life that you love because you're stressed. Stop it. Okay? Now, why does this work? Let's talk about that real quick. It works because your creative mind, and if you ever get this book, this is on page 25, your creative mind can't tell the difference between an experience imagined with intense feeling and a real experience. So going back to the blindfolded guys, like, they actually thought they were dying, so they died. They thought they were being murdered with ice and water, but they weren't, right? So your mind cannot tell the difference between an experience imagined with intense feeling or a real experience. It automatically reacts to the information you give it and takes action on what you think or what you imagine. The power of the mind, y'all, I mean, it's powerful. That's all I can say, right? It is absolutely powerful. And the thing is that we have the power of our minds, but because we have not trained our minds to think properly, we don't really know how to control it. So this is why we are controlling our minds, because we want to be able to have full access to everything that belongs to us. We want to have full access to the life that we want to love, the life that we want to live. You know, I was listening to this guy, Maston Kipton, forgot his name already. Okay, but anyway, that's neither here. Oh, Maston Kip, that's his name. All right, but anyway, he essentially went from having nothing. His business went under. His girl left him. He ended up moving in with his ex-girlfriend's parents in their pool house. Then he was like couch surfing, going from person's home, sleeping on the couch, right, to being on Oprah, to working with Tony Robbins, who is a billionaire, to, you know, having a very successful coaching business now. And it was in a matter of like less than a year that his life changed and got to that point, all because he shifted his thinking, all because he shifted his mindset. But it was a continuous thing. Like, we think that we're just going to be wishful with our thinking one time, or we visualize, we create a vision board one time, but we never look at it again, and we never continue to create, and we think that what we want is going to manifest. It don't work like that, baby. It don't work like that, right? But when we continue to create and we continue to visualize daily, then it becomes something that is an unstoppable force in our lives. All right, so let me go on here. Let me figure out what was next in my notes before I just start reading y'all the whole book. I'm telling you, if you don't have it, I got this off of Amazon. Are All Your Pieces in Place by Glenda Feilen. Okay, so I already pretty much talked about that. Fall in love with the creation process of your life. When we visualize, oh, this is good. This is good. Okay. So when we visualize, we are impregnating our minds, our creative minds. So we have to take care of that. Just if I have any women on here or anybody who has had a child, right? Then you know that the person who is carrying the child just can't do anything, right? Like, you have to nourish the baby. There's things that you can't do while you're pregnant, or things that you shouldn't do if you want your baby to come out healthy as possible, right? So this is why we have to nourish our mind with those thoughts and then exercise it, because literally when we're visualizing, we are impregnating our creative mind, and we can do that with negative or positive, and we can do that consciously or subconsciously. So we need to do that consciously with positive thoughts, right? Because otherwise we end up with stories like what I told you guys on yesterday with a couple out of Florida who killed the husband's ex-girlfriend, sawed her up, poured acid on her to try and get the body to dissolve, and then when that didn't work, they threw her in the lake with the alligators. Okay. So y'all get what I'm saying? Like, that was some crazy subconscious, like, they got that from somewhere. I hope that wasn't their conscious mind anyway. Like, I hope that they had like watched some alligator movies and that's where it came from, and they weren't like really there. Like, hopefully they were found mentally unstable. I don't know, but that's cray cray. But that's besides the point. But I just can't get over it. So how do we change our bad habits? Okay, how do we change our bad thoughts, guys? And if you're still getting value, give me some likes, give me some loves, give me some laughs, give me something. Okay, let me know that you're still following along with me. Okay, so change a bad habit essentially is once, absolutely, okay, but once you experience a bad thought, then you have to immediately turn it into something else, to the opposite. Turn it into something positive. Okay, so if you, for instance, this woman in the book is the example. She felt like, okay, every time I walk across the street, I feel like I'm gonna get hit by a car, or like something bad was gonna happen to her. And so she had to begin to visualize good things happening. Like, okay, if I go swimming, I'm not going to drown, but I'm going to be able to swim across the pool, and I'm going to be victorious in doing this, right? And so we have to immediately change the negative thought with the positive. And not only that, but give it about 3. So for every negative thought you have, give it 3 positive thoughts. Okay? Because we are visualizing what we want our lives to be like. This is how we are exercising our minds. We know the food to nourish our mind is our thoughts. We want to do that with positive thoughts, and we want to do that intentionally and consciously because we know the power behind it. And then how you exercise those thoughts is through visualization, right? Okay. So again, where are we at? Sometimes it takes so long. Oh, like when I wanted to go to Japan. So everything may not come right away, right? Sometimes it's going to take time. When I wanted to go to Japan, I was a young girl. Not I think, I was. And I didn't go until I was in college, right? So we had several years there in between that time of me wanting to go and then me actually going. But guess what? It happened. See, some of us, we give up too soon on our dreams. We give up too soon on our goals, and we just feel like, okay, well, it's never going to happen. And so you tuck it somewhere, or you completely forget it. You no longer feed it. You no longer give it what it needs. We got to stop doing that, right? Because sometimes it's just that we need to get our minds right. Because I could have gone before then, but hey. So, but it happened when it happened. And I knew that I was going. I just didn't know when, and I didn't know how, but I didn't question it, right? Okay, so let me read here. Oh, the sun is coming out and it is getting hot. Sometimes it takes so long to get what you want. Why? The intensity of feeling and the frequency of your visualization affect the speed at which your desires manifest. So even casual pictures can make a difference, but intense, concentrated effort create more quickly and efficiently. If you think it's taking too long to accomplish your goal, check the following, okay? So if you want things to happen faster for you, here's some things that you can check, all right? Is your goal specific? Is your goal specific? Does it have visual clarity? Do you have the feeling you would if it were accomplished? Is it your dominant thought? Is it being blocked by resentment or hatred? Have you cluttered your mind with too many pictures by working on too many goals at once? So these are the things. Hey Don, I got this book off of Amazon. So these are the things that you need to be thinking about. If you're like, okay, this is just taking absolutely way too long. Y'all know how I am when I get hot. Okay, and this legal pad is so big. I'm like about to take my head off with it. But things you need to be thinking about. If it's taking too long for your goals to manifest, you need to go back and you need to check yourself. You need to see what your thoughts are. You know, you need to really just understand what's happening in your mind, right? Okay, so why doesn't something last once it manifests? Sometimes something happens for us and we're like, but God, I thought that was it. Then we need to go back and we need to check ourselves. Like, did we do it with integrity? Sometimes we do things and we lack integrity and we're going to lose it. Did we? Oh my gosh. All right. Did we, let's see here. Lack of integrity. Check our intentions. Did we do it with too much force, too much intensity, versus allowing the natural flow to happen, right? See you, Wilbert. All right. Did we create it with joy and love, the proper vibration, constant gratitude, or continue visualization? In order for something to continue, we must continue to create. So I'm not going to go more into that, but we already talked about that some, okay? So when you're visualizing, visualize it in multiple ways. Don't just visualize it in one way, all right? So when you want to buy a car, visualize it by picking that picture out of the magazine, seeing yourself in the car, show it to your friend, tell them how it's going to feel and how excited you are. Go to the dealership, put your hands around that steering wheel, take it around the block, right? All of this is helping your visualization. It's creating deeper thought processes in your subconscious mind, all right? So now the last thing that we're going to talk about, how long have I been on here? 41 minutes. Okay. Whew. Yeah, it was so much better when the sun was not out. Y'all see my sweat beads? All right, anyway, let us go to the goal chart real quick, and then we are going to close this baby out. If you guys have any questions or anything, just drop it below. I know it's gone on long today. Okay, how to make a goal chart. So when we're really thinking about how to create our goals and set goals for and visualizing it, you can make a goal chart. And so what that can look like is like you get a poster board and you split it up into different sections. So it could be like this. Can y'all see that? I don't know if y'all can see that. And I know it's going to be backwards, but I'm going to read what it says. It says family, relationships, spiritual, work, finances, education, health, self-improvement. Or it could be work, finances, personal, spiritual, relationships, whatever it is that you want to work on. And it's very much like a vision board, but collect the words and the pictures and things that you want to put on here so that you can pull it out and see it every day, that it can begin to manifest in your life, right? And then you want to keep this in a private place, because this isn't for everybody to see right away, because we all know that there's some haters out there and they're going to be ready to tell you that it's not going to happen and it's not going to work and so on and so forth, and that's not what we want. We need to get it so deeply embedded in our brains, in our minds, that there is nothing or no one that can stop us, okay? And so that's what you can do for your goal chart. So you can absolutely use these visualization techniques to get better in your life, all right? So let's say, for instance, in fact, we'll just use the example in the book. The woman was saying that she was coaching someone who sold makeup, and the woman was afraid to give presentations, but they did a visualization of the guests arriving and talking to them and putting the makeup on them and just walked through the whole process. And she did it repeatedly until she began to feel comfortable with what she was doing. And that's the same thing that is going to help you when you're wanting to build your skills, when you're wanting to just put in your mind, hey, I can do these things, I can accomplish these goals. It's going to be the visualization, because that is what strengthens your mind. That is how you exercise your mind. So guys, that is my time. We were just discussing chapter 3 of the book, Are All Your Pieces in Place, by Glenda Feilen. So if that helps you, make sure you drop a like, a heart, a love, happy face. If it challenged you, drop an angry face. Well, don't put an angry face unless you tell me in the comments why you're angry, because then I'll be like, well, why did they put an angry face? I don't want angry faces. Don't put that type of energy on my page. So I changed my mind. Don't give me an angry face. All right, y'all. Oh, this breeze. The Lord knew what I needed. He knew that I needed this breeze in my life. Okay, so if you have any questions, go ahead. I look cold. David, stop, dude. I'm hot. All right, but if you guys have any questions, anything that I talked about or anything you kind of want to discuss, just go ahead, drop it below in the comments, and I will be sure to check it later. So tomorrow we are going to be on chapter 4, so I'm excited to get started in that. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you share this video, like this video, heart this video, do all good things with this video, and I will talk to you all later. I'm Camille Aiko, and I hope that you are living the life that you love, spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. Bye-bye.